Hiya.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, how
Nice to
was
meet you.
your day?
Good, thank you. Oh, no camera. Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
There, awesome.
Oh, good, thank
Wonderful.
you. Yeah. And yourself? It's just starting for you, isn't it?
It's like the middle of the day, so yeah, it's been good so far. It's been busy, but good.
Good.
So, yeah. Yeah, so I thanks so much for agreeing to jump on. I'm just so interested in like the process that you obviously have done through your training,
hmm
obviously getting into the sport, and then I know you wanted to talk a little bit about like the representation of like females in the sport, which is
Or lack of.
yeah, lack of, right? But I think that would be super super cool to talk about. So
Yeah, sounds good.
yeah, so let's kind of I guess jump in and just where are you, or where, yeah,
Yep.
who are you, where are you from, all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I'm Sophie. I'm based in the right in the middle of the UK in a place called the Peak District. It's a national park. It's really hilly. We're not talking like huge mountains, but consistently hilly. You can't run anywhere flat. There's no road running around here. It's, I guess, what you'd term fell running, which is very British.
Mhm.
So it's lots of trackless, boggy, wet,
Oh, okay.
hilly running.
Okay.
It's very UK centric. Up until about 6 months ago, though, I was in London, so all flat running, pretty much on roads. So it's it's definitely a lifestyle change for the better, but yeah, a bit of a shock to the system. Everything slows down in your runs. I've done more elevation since the beginning of the year than I did in the first sort of 7 months of last year.
Wow.
um, so yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so it's definitely suiting the sort of races that I like to do more, the training around here.
Mhm.
um, Lots of good trail runners around here, which is really nice. So definitely a proper community, lots of people running not just ultras but sort of silly events. And you know, the fell running community is, they like to kind of do silly runs where you see how fast you can get up and down hills, and with lots of navigation, no GPX, so it's all maps and compasses,
Sure.
which I'm very new to.
Mhm.
So I'm sort of learning that a bit, but I very much rely on the old GPX watch a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess I sort of got into the sport by, well, my sister's husband did a few ultras and then she did some.
Mhm.
And I'd run as a teenager. So I thought I'd give it a go. They made it look fun, which seems a bit weird, but I think you have to believe it's fun to do it.
100%. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think you could get through it if you didn't believe it was going to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I guess there are a few people that claim that they don't really like running but just happen to be really good at ultras. There's a couple of those out there, but that's not me. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It feels like a bit of a privilege to have the opportunity to be outside for such a long time, and
Yeah.
not everybody has that luxury.
Sure.
So yeah, I started off with a 50k. I learned pretty fast that I needed to train more and that I needed to do way more strength and conditioning. And when I say way more, I mean any. Because my hips just couldn't cope with it, like the sort of repetitive
Yeah.
nature of just being on your feet for so long. Um, so yeah, I do like an hour's strength and conditioning every week, plus sort of some little bits and pieces, but a solid hour every week. And
Mhm.
it's made a massive difference. Like I don't have the same kind of, I guess, wear when it's just the
Sure.
kind of repeat trudge of sort of the ultra distance training.
Are you doing that like like just 1 hour at a time, or do you break that up into sections? How do you do that?
I do an hour at a time.
Okay.
So I have from when I was in London, I had a PT there, and now we just do it on Zoom. Now I'm up here because I like him and he knows me.
Yeah.
He knows the events I do. So we just carried on
Yeah.
over Zoom. So yeah, it'll be lots of hip isolation work. And then some total body stuff. So I use a bar, lots of deadlifts, squats, lunges, all the usual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely made a huge difference to, I found the first few I did that even just wearing a pack, it just hurt my back. It was a bit uncomfortable. And my arms hurt from being like this for so long. This ached.
Yeah.
So just doing all that extra work has made a huge difference, and I don't get those kind of aches and pains anymore.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. I work with a running coach now, and look, I'm very much a middle of the field runner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not winning things, but she stops me doing too much. If that makes sense. Like it's really, when you're feeling good and it's nice weather, you just want to be out all the time, especially here, being out in the hills. It's irresistible. And she stops me doing that. So it means I won't get injured.
Yes, definitely. And I know you just explaining a little bit about just the underrepresentation of females in the sport.
Yeah.
So do you, like, with starting a race, we'll say, do you all start at the same time in terms of their ultra races? Do you have a female and male heat, or is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All of the races I've done, it's been mixed field. And everybody starts at the same time. Now, coming out of the pandemic, I did a 100-miler, and you had a 2-hour window to start. So everybody just turned up as they liked and started. It was effectively a time trial.
Yeah.
So, but still, it was just males and females all at the same time.
Okay.
But there's always very much a lack of females at the
How
start.
does that feel on the course? Like, do you get intimidated, or are you kind of just used to it?
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
It's normal, but I find it disappointing. I think so. I did a race called the Dragon's Back. It's a 6-day, multi-day 6-day ultra marathon. So you do a 50k, a 60k, 3 70ks, and a 60k over the mountains, like 18,000 meters of ascent.
Wow.
And there were 37 women that started out of a field of 380.
Wow.
37 women, and that's shocking. Now, there were some issues because people couldn't travel to the UK, so the international field was pretty limited, and it might have been slightly higher, but we're not talking hugely high. I mean, maybe it would have had 50 women out of 450 total, and that's just such a huge imbalance. And I think race directors probably need to show more females on their websites, in their advertising, maybe stop using such masculine language like brutal and suffer. Like, I think women, it's a bit like when women are interviewing for jobs, if they don't see themselves in the full list of qualifications, or the in the description, they stand off and they don't apply for it.
Sure.
And I think the same thing applies there when, Britain's most brutal, awful race. I think women won't put themselves forward for it if they don't feel like they can really commit to it.
Right.
Whereas I definitely think there's a lot of guys that will turn up untrained, feel like they can wing it a bit more. I don't know if you see the same thing in the events you do. Do you do Ironman, and marathons?
Yeah, and I definitely do, and I think there's obviously some physiology behind that too, is like men truly can train on less fuel than a female can, and just with physiology and hormone and all of that. And so definitely yeah, and I see that kind of across the board with, I think, more of the, as you enter those like ultra endurance phases is where we see men more represented than the female.
Yeah.
I see that changing a bit in triathlon, which is pretty cool to see.
Oh,
So
that's good.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think talking to, so the race that I did, if you got timed out or you pulled out, you could still do part of the race as like a kind of running holiday.
Oh,
So you could still, you were non-competitive.
got it.
And so you get to talk to people that are in different stages of the race, people that aren't racing. And a lot of the guys that I talked to really had no business being on the start line with what, like some of them are just like, oh, well, I just did a 50K virtual race during lockdown and thought this would be fun.
Wow.
You know, things like that. Whereas all of the women I spoke to were pretty much, you know, dedicated for a year in advance training.
Wow.
And just such a different mindset. And it's quite interesting. But I think until we get more, maybe a bit of positive discrimination,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't want to go too far, but I think, you know, until we can get the numbers up a bit, it's you know, we need to at least show more imagery and maybe soften language to try and encourage more women, and, you know, hopefully, you know, get more females on podcasts and stuff to show that it can be done. I mean, Jasmine Paris at the Barclay, doing 3 laps is the first time in about 10 years, and that should hopefully encourage more women, so showing that they you know, can compete with the men. So
yeah, absolutely. I have a few ultra endurance female friends that are really just prevalent in their kind of representation in the sport, and I think it's pretty cool to see. I did over the summer, I actually helped, or my friend did the Grand Canyon. She did rim to rim.
oh wow,
Rim to rim to rim to rim, so
amazing.
4 crossings of the whole thing, and I did just one crossing with her, and I mean, just phenomenal, like in terms of the timing and the planning that it takes to do these things. And
Yeah,
so that was essentially a 24-hour event, right? And so, and then I'm so interested to dive into your 6-day event, but like the planning that goes into it, and the community that it creates, and
yeah,
just so cool. And I think it could really, I think that especially females, I think, would find the sport really, really awesome, because
yeah,
it's just an awesome sport. So
it is, and it's just so welcoming. And I think
yes.
people maybe think it would be more like marathon running, where it's all about time and speed, and everybody asks you immediately how fast you're going to go. As soon as you say you're going an ultra distance, people are just like, wow, that's really far. So everything else melts away.
Yeah.
But there seems to be more of an attitude of people will help each other.
Totally.
People will stop, people will risk their race to make sure somebody's safe.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what so coming from like where I am all about speed, where it's like marathon, you know, you're on the road, and it is about speed, right? But then in the Grand Canyon that I did, it wasn't, you know, yes, we were trying to hit times and things like that, but like first and foremost safety, and then community, you know, and I think I was really intimidated going in. I was like, there's no way I can complete like that distance in the mountains, because right, it's a elevation gain too. And and my friend just reassured me. She's like, you'll be fine, trust me, like this is nothing like what you're used to. And that was just super eye-opening for me in that sport too. So
yeah, it's really different. I think people stepping up from marathon, like I never did marathons, I just ignored that and just started with ultra distance. But I think that's change in mindset of like, oh, I can walk now. I can walk up this hill, and I can have some food, and I can you know, chat to people. It's really different. And I think if more women did know that that's how it is,
Totally.
they
Yeah.
might want to join in a bit more. And hopefully, I mean, look, we are moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's just I know Western States has just changed their entry process to try and get more women in as well. So
Cool.
that's the most famous ultra in the world. So if they're
Mhm.
doing it, other people will do it.
That's really awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah. So tell us in this 6-day event, what was it called again?
It's called the Dragon's Back. Yeah, and
Dragon's
it's
Back.
basically from the north of Wales to the south of Wales,
Okay.
across the what they call it, the spine. It's mountainous the whole way down.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I mean, again, nothing like the US. Like the highest is like 1100 meters.
Okay. I mean,
But
still, you're still
I mean,
climbing.
you feel it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's 6 days. And so,
Yeah,
do they have camps along the way? Are you carrying
yeah.
everything that you need? How does that work?
So it's a sort of hybrid, really. So the race organizers set up a camp at the end of each day. So you get a route with checkpoints that you need to, like, you have this little thing on your wrist that you beep in to say you've been through the checkpoint.
Oh,
You
good.
have one water stop and one drop bag stop. So there's no traditional aid stations with food and drink provided. You have to, in that drop bag, make sure you have everything you need, or you're carrying it for the day.
Wow.
And then you reach the camp that they set up, and there is dinner for you. So you're not carrying all your sleeping stuff and all your food for every evening. I don't think it would be possible to do it if you were. The first day is 4,500 meters and 50k. So it's a big day out.
Yeah.
It also happened to be 30 degrees for the first 3 days, which is unheard of in the UK. It's normally raining in Wales. So that was a bit of a shock to the system. And actually, it completely massacred the field. We lost 76% of the field out of the race. So only 90 people finished.
Oh my. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, really unusual. Previous iterations of the race, it's been much higher, never that low.
Yeah.
But the heat just really destroyed people.
I can imagine. Yeah. So yeah, because I mean, how do you practice that if you don't know?
Yeah, exactly. You can't, and that's just not the weather we have in the UK. It's so rare. And to
Yeah.
get 3 days in a row that heat in
Wow.
September is just unheard of. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock to the system. And I think particularly, it wasn't necessarily just that it was so hot. It was that people's race plans went out the window because it was hot. So they got so demoralized they gave up.
Yeah. That's hard. It's hard because
It's really hard.
you can mentally like prepare yourself if you know that's what you're up against. But if you don't, then it's almost like demoralizing. You're just like, I can't
Completely. Yeah, exactly. And people just found it so sapping that they'd get to the aid stop and they'd have 40 minutes to feed themselves, fill up with water, pack their stuff up and go again. And they'd just go, nah, I can't do it. I'm just giving up.
Wow. That is wild.
Yeah. And it's difficult to feed yourself in that heat.
Yeah.
To get enough in. Thankfully, Wales has quite a lot of like water, so little lakes and streams and rivers in the mountains. So you just kind of go around a corner and there'd be 5 or 6 people just sort of face first in a stream trying to cool down.
So what did you do on the course when it was that warm? What was your favorite? What was your go-to fuel?
Yeah, so tailwind.
Okay.
Actually, so I really rate it. I really like it. I'm trying a new one called Mountain Fuel at the moment, but I had tailwind on that. And because you can just keep sipping it, you're getting something in. as I said to you in our email exchange, I like real food where possible, though. I can't do gels at all. And it's not even just that I don't like the taste of them. I feel like when I'm tired and I'm opening them, I end up with it everywhere. So there's just like sticky gel over everything.
Yes.
And then you put it in your race vest and it gets sticky in the pockets. And
Yeah.
it just, when you know you're going to be going for potentially, well, this 6 days, but, overnight, you have your first gel in the first 3 hours and it's sticky already. So I just avoid it. I keep a couple as an absolute emergency ration just in case I fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
But I haven't had to open them as yet.
Okay.
But what I'll try and do is I'll eat sausage rolls. Now I'm a vegetarian, so I make vegetarian ones.
Okay.
And any kind of crisp, anything salty. I get chips.
Yep.
Then muesli bars, and again I have Cliff bars, but sometimes I find them a bit dense. So there's another one called Kind. I think you have those in the US. I really like those, and I never seem to tire of those.
Yeah.
But truthfully, on the event, the first 3 days, I struggled to eat, and it was just trying to get in anything I could. So, a bag of nuts, I'd be eating like 3 nuts at a time, just trying to get some kind of energy in. And then to be sure that I wasn't getting too dehydrated, I had salt tablets. Because I just was really conscious that when you're out for that long and that many days, it's very difficult once you get dehydrated to bring it back from the brink.
Yeah.
So, anytime, sorry, this is a bit too much information, but anytime you go to the loo, check the color. If it's too dark, loads of water, loads of salt tablets, because again, you don't want to have too much water and then flush out all of the electrolytes. Because
there's this balancing act there.
It's impossible, and I get really paranoid that I'm going to do that, because I actually know that's worse. If you have too much water. So it's so challenging to get it all right. And but once you're on the hill, anything goes. So you talk to your fellow runners about all of this stuff along the way and what they're going through, and everybody helps each other.
They all have tidbits of information that they experienced along the way.
And then what I realized later down, as it cooled down a bit and I settled into the sort of multi-day aspect of it, because it was my first multi-day event. I'd gone overnight, so for 33 hours in one go, but I'd never done this staged race before. As it went on, I started to be able to eat a bit better, but I realized if I got back to camp and I drank milk, it really helped. I don't know if it was just because it was so fatty, I felt like it sort of gave me much more energy. So I took for the last 3 days, I'd have 2 glasses of milk when I got back, and then 2 glasses of milk in the morning, along with any kind of porridge or fruit and stuff that I could get in. Eggs. And it really, really helped. And I since read that actually those like recovery drinks that you have afterwards, which again, I use the Tailwind ones, which is really, really good. But actually, if you just have milk, it kind of does the same thing.
So milk, specifically chocolate milk, has that really great ratio of carbs to protein. It actually has like 3 grams of carbs to 1 gram of protein. So that's really what your body needs to recover, is that carb and protein. And milk has both whey protein and casein protein, which whey's a quick digesting, casein's a little bit slower, so both really, really great for your body in terms of recovery. So
that's good to know.
I
don't drink a lot of milk generally, and I can always tell when I need something because it tastes really good. So like that vanilla Tailwind, if I haven't done enough, it can be a bit difficult to get it down. It's nice enough, but it's still powder and water. Whereas if it tastes really good, it's like, I definitely need it. And it was like that with that milk. It was just, I don't really like the way it tastes. but it was delicious.
It did the job.
It did the job, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I then took to taking a banana as well. So I'd eat my breakfast, and then they'd let me take, so you're not meant to take food from camp for the hill, but they let me take a banana.
Yeah.
So
Like,
then I could just, for the first sort of hour, I'd carry this banana, and then, straight away then start eating.
Yeah.
Again, and then that was it. I'd just try and graze for as much of the day as I could.
Yeah, that seems like a great way to kind of work through that.
Yeah.
Especially in the heat. So
yeah. I mean, it wasn't a perfect strategy. I lost an extraordinary amount of weight.
I'm sure.
Probably nearly 10 kilos. Like I was really, really, my husband was horrified when I got to the finish.
Oh,
but it came back very quick. But
sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that, I'm sure, was a result of dehydration.
Definitely.
Above all, because that much weight and that short of time is usually water.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of muscle wasting, but yeah.
Definitely.
I'm sure you felt that loss, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't feel it until I finished. Like, I think I actually felt like I got stronger throughout the race. I felt more comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, really strangely, I felt, particularly on the last day, I felt really strong. And now it's not very fast by general standards, but for the last sort of 5 to 7k, I was knocking out 6.5 minute Ks.
Wow.
So,
that's pretty strong over.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the finish line in sight, kind of.
I think so.
I'm almost there.
Yeah, it definitely, because the last day is a lot of downhill. So there's only about 1,200 meters of up in it. And then you're heading down to the coast. So there's a point about 20 kilometers out where you can see where you're finishing, the bay.
Oh, wow.
So it just, and then you're like, well, I can do a half marathon. If I've done all this, I can do a half marathon. So
right. Yeah.
You can, I think quite a lot of people had strong finishes, but it was sort of the next few days where I really felt that loss. And my body was sort of okay. I had the kind of normal sort of achy legs, the sort of jittery feeling you get.
Yeah.
When you've put them through so much. And I'm sure you know that from Ironman. You try and sleep the next day, everything hurts. It's impossible. But I just felt I was just so tired. I'd do something and then I'd have to sleep for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And it took weeks for me to stop being hungry all the time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure your body was just in complete shock. Yeah. So what is your favorite post-race meal? What do you enjoy?
Yeah. It's really boring and really British, but I really like a jacket potato, like a baked potato with lots of butter and lots of cheese.
That makes sense though, right? Given the nature of the endurance sport.
Any kind of potato, to be honest. Chips, fries, baked potato, all of it. I actually had some macaroni cheese after that race, and it was really good as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But basically nothing with any real nutritional value, just carbohydrate.
Yeah, your body was just like, get me all of the carbs.
Yeah, and I don't restrict my carb intake. I eat carbs are the biggest part of my diet day to day. But I really like something like that because I can stomach it. If you try and eat anything too much, it's not going to go down well.
Yeah, it turns your stomach.
It does. So I might have like a fizzy drink afterwards, and sometimes I'll have a beer afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't normally drink. I'm normally alcohol-free beer.
Oh, okay.
But so I'll allow myself like half a pint or something afterwards. And it goes down well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you like to do on your rest and recovery days?
We don't have many of them.
Yeah.
I've been doing 7 or 8 runs in 6 days.
Wow.
So I've got an event in 10, 11 days.
Okay.
So
And
I'm
what
in
is that?
taper.
Ah,
It's called the Northern Traverse. So it's a
okay.
190-mile coast to coast.
Wow.
So from one side of the UK to the other. So it'll be the furthest non-stop I've done.
How many
Um,
days is that?
so I think you have up to 5 days, but
Okay.
I've got a plan for 68 hours. So that will be just under 3 full days. But it depends on the sleep, how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what, like, is this one fully, you have to carry everything? You're
So you have a drop bag.
okay. Okay.
So and there is aid stations along this one, but they're quite far apart. So you're looking at between 50 and 70k between
Wow.
aid stations. So you need to carry enough food for that. There are some shops. It goes through towns and villages. Okay,
Oh.
not often, but
Uh-huh.
you can use those if they're there, or you don't end up there in the middle of the night.
Yep.
So I don't want to rely on that too much, because I'm worried that if something goes wrong and I don't hit my plan, then I'm stuck. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting. They do have tents set up at a couple of the aid stations. If you want to sleep, you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go for a sleep as little as possible strategy. So I won't sleep at all the first night, and I'll maybe sleep for a couple of hours on the second and third night. Depends how I'm feeling, I think.
Wow. So are you using Tailwind on this? Or are you using the Mountain?
I'm going to use Mountain Fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I sort of overdid it a bit on the flavor I've got on the Tailwind, so I need to give it a break, and then I'll go back to it,
Yeah.
because it
Does
is really
that,
good.
yeah. Does that have caffeine in it? Is that how you're like microdosing caffeine through the trip?
You know what the Tailwind does, but the Mountain Fuel doesn't, because day to day I don't drink caffeine really. So
Okay.
I'll probably take a bit of the Tailwind in my drop bag. So maybe for the last day I'll switch to the caffeine.
Yeah, that makes
But I
sense.
don't want to drink caffeine for 3 days straight. I think I'll feel a bit weird.
Yeah, I think that would probably start to wear on you a little bit. Probably
Yeah.
a little jittery, stomach upset.
Yeah, and yeah, nobody wants that. So the
Mhm.
Mountain Fuel is at the moment the flavor that I enjoy the most. So
Okay.
you just stick with what you like, don't you, for these things? It's
Yeah.
because that means you can get it down, and that's the most important thing.
Yes. Yes.
Needs some variation to try and keep interested in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you starting your taper now, or when do you start?
Yeah, I've started my
Okay.
taper. I still have 5 runs to do this week, but they're not very long, so they're
Yeah.
quite little.
Yeah.
Longest will be an hour and a half on Saturday.
Okay.
And then I'll just do 2 half-an-hour runs the following week, and then it starts the following Saturday. So should be pretty
Wow.
well rested by then.
Wow. I'll have to keep an eye out and follow you. That's really exciting.
Oh yeah, there's tracking.
Yes. Yes. That is
You can
really
dot watch. Yeah, I
cool.
love dot watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, great. Well, do you have any other like tidbits of information or just I don't know, things to cover, just especially for the female that's maybe
Yeah.
looking to do ultra endurance
Mhm.
events like this?
Yeah, I think there's loads of people on Instagram and stuff doing this, and normal runners, and I think that can be both daunting and inspiring.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of people that post stuff about how great it is all the time, and it isn't that way. It can be pretty grim, slogging through the mud all winter doing your training. But I think I do believe that anybody can do it. You just have to want to do it. I'm a really normal runner, and I train hard and I work for it, but I came from a very average place,
Mm-hmm.
and I think if it's something you want to try, you can definitely do it. You just need to carve out the time, which unfortunately is more difficult for women than it is for men sometimes.
Yeah.
Conversations I have out on the trail with women are about their children and childcare. I don't have that. So you don't have those conversations with men. So it's challenging, but I think, a 50K, it's only just over a marathon. If you've done a marathon, you can do a 50K. And once you start doing those events, you'll feel much more comfortable about it. But also just reach out to those people on Instagram, right? Or on YouTube that have done them, and just ask them what they did.
Yeah.
Because most of them are just winging it and just sort of learning as they go along, but they do have good information for you. Like, there's things I did on my first ultra that I wouldn't do now. Like, I always thought, well, I'm feeling really good, I should get as far as I can, which is just stupid, because you just wear yourself out. It's just idiotic. Whereas now, I'm like snail's pace the whole way.
Yeah,
but
even keel.
the same pace. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And food wise, don't get too caught up in gels and fads and things. Eat what you like, what you can get in. That's all you need to do, is just try and get as much fuel in as you possibly can. It almost doesn't matter what it is at that point. The before and after, you can worry about real nutritional value, but during the race, you just need calories.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's so important, especially those ultra endurance events, like especially the days on ends events like that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure, you just need food. Like anything counts.
Anything goes. And also never do fasted running. Never ever.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, and it's such nonsense. Like, it's like, right, if you're going for a little half an hour or something before you've had your breakfast, I'm sure you can manage that, but otherwise it's just damaging. It's not going to help fat adaptation quicker, it's just going to damage you.
Especially females, right?
Exactly, right. It messes with all your hormones, and then you have issues with your periods, and it's not good. And it happens all too often. It's all too common that you hear about it. I don't know if you follow her. There's a nutritionist in the UK called Renee McGregor.
No.
And she talks about it a lot, like women's reproductive health. But I see it a lot, and it just seems like a fad diet to me.
Same. So that's like actually a big part of what I do too, is female athletes, and specifically female endurance athletes, and their hormone health, and how detrimental that can be with especially women in their reproductive years, but even that perimenopausal, postmenopausal stage, you're working against your hormones. Against them. And it's we have to, as females especially, like, we really want to try and promote healthy hormones, promote body composition, especially that recovery process and building muscle. So yeah.
And if you put the work in your training, you'll get fat adaptation anyway. Like, it just happens naturally, but there's no quick win for that, or quick or shortcut, right? And unfortunately, there's too many books and people out there spreading that nonsense. But I don't believe in it, especially if you're doing endurance events. You just need to eat as much as you can all the time. I eat all the time. I'm hungry all the time.
I feel you. I'm on a 2-hour clock. It's on the go always. I'm like, oh, is it time to eat again?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And again, as well, the messaging around, I'm doing this run so I earn that pudding that I'm gonna have. Like, I'm not earning anything. I'm just eating it because I want it and I'm hungry. And I happen to go running.
Yep. I love that. Definitely kind of on the realm of mindful eating, and really focus, like, if you want it, great, have it. Have it pleasurably, enjoy it. You don't need to earn your food. You don't need to burn your calories. Like, there's no reason for that. So great message. I love it. Yes. Wonderful. Well, people want to follow you in your next race, or maybe even on Instagram, ask you questions, are you open to that and sharing your
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Cool.
my handle's at Littlefair.
Okay.
So, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. I always like, particularly women. I love chatting to women. I mean, I just like talking about running and kit and racing. So, always game for that.
Yeah, and I will in all of the notes and everything, I'll just tag your Instagram.
Perfect.
And that people have that. So
yeah, no, that's great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And
no, you're welcome. It was really nice to speak to you.
Yes, you too. And I will definitely touch base with you because I do want to hear how this race goes for you.
Well, fingers crossed I make it. Anything can happen over such a long period of time. So
sure. Well, sending all the positive vibes your way, and
thanks. I'm gonna need it.
Yes. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.